Hi, John. I think we're on.
Are we on?
I think we're on.
Okay. Hello, everyone. I'm John Grisham coming to you live from lovely downtown Charlottesville, Virginia, where all the streets are empty, like most towns in America. I am currently promoting my latest book, Camino Winds, came out last week. It's a sequel to a book I published 3 years ago called Camino Island, and it's a murder mystery, and it takes place in this fictional little island in Florida. It got a great blurb from my new best friend, Delia Owens, who is here with us today. And I am probably the only person in America who has not finished her book. But I'm reading it now and really enjoying the book. So, Delia, would you say hello?
Hey, John, and hello to all the viewers from Barnes and Noble and Facebook. It's great to be here. Thank you for having me here, John. I really appreciate it. And we're going to have some fun talking about your new book. Congratulations
Thank you.
on the publication of your new book, Camino Winds. I was very honored to be sent an advance copy. It's an intriguing, fun romp. It's a legal mystery, and I'm not going to say very much, but I just wanted to ask you a couple of questions about how you came up with this plot. It's basically this hodgepodge of authors who are caught on this island after a hurricane, and they discover one of their colleagues has been murdered. And since the police are very busy with the cleanup after the hurricane, they decide to take off on their own and solve this mystery. I love that idea. Was there some particular spark that brought that plot to mind?
Well, I've always loved reading murder mysteries. I think we all do. It's a beach book. It's a fun romp, as you said, in the summertime. And it's when I wrote Camino Island 3 years ago, it was designed to be a simple beach book, a fun summer read, because I really got ticked off 30 years ago when this guy reviewed The Firm, and he said it was nothing more than a beach book, and that really that's why. So 3 years ago, I said, okay, I'm going to show you a true beach book and Camino Island. And by the time I finished Camino Island 3 years ago, I knew I would go back there for more stories because I really enjoy the setting, the island, the little town of Santa Rosa, the gorgeous bookstore on Main Street. And I really enjoyed the little circle of writers who gather there and under the supervision or the tutelage of their hero who owns the bookstore. And so when it was time, I knew I would go back for more stories, and I have at least one more after this one more under contract, put it that way. But I love the idea of a mystery, a pure murder mystery, when they find the body of their colleague. And over the years, I've killed off so many lawyers and judges. I thought it'd be fun to kill off a writer, so I killed off the writer.
Well, it was great fun. I mean, but it was much more than fun. It was very mysterious and had some very serious parts to it, which I think are very timely. And I think that right now it's a great time to read with the isolation that we're all in, and it's, I think, reading and actually writing. It's a good time to write as well. And what do you I would, if you don't mind, I want to ask you, pick your brain a little bit about, you've written many more novels than I have, and I've only written one. How did you come up with the details of the plot? Is it something that, I mean, do you do a very detailed outline and then stick with that outline? Do you do the outline all the way through to the end, or do you wander and deviate from your outline?
Yeah, it's impossible to outline an entire story
Yeah,
over
that's what I
five
thought.
pages or 125,000 words. And I've learned that you cannot predict everything that's going to happen. That's the fun part because once you get into the story and you have your basic plot, and I outline to the point where I know what the end's going to be. And I have a rule that I tell students and aspiring writers occasionally: do not write the first scene until you know the last scene.
Yeah,
And
right.
if you always know where you're going, it's hard to get lost. And writers are notorious for having a great idea, a great inspiration, and jumping in and writing like crazy for about a year and piling up, 50,000 words. and then realize they can't get out of it. And I made that mistake one time, and I said never again. So I work from a very it's a pretty detailed outline that keeps me on track. I'll change it from time to time, but I always know the basic plot. I always know what the end's going to be, and I want the ending to be something that the reader cannot predict, whether it's a mystery, a thriller, or any type of suspense. I want to hook the reader early,
Yeah.
and I want to surprise the reader late, and that's kind of the way I go about it.
That's great. That's a great plan. That's what I try to do. That's what I did work very hard to do with Crawdads. And I love your main character in that he's a bookstore owner. And I actually love the book. Does Bay Books exist? Is that a real bookstore? Because it.
Oh, no, it's all fiction.
Okay.
It's all, the
Okay.
town, the island is sort of patterned after Amelia Island, Florida, which is a
Right.
beautiful place north of Jacksonville. We've been vacationing there for 25 years, and we built a house there about 10 years ago, and that's our summer hangout. And right now, we'd love to get down there, but we can't for obvious reasons. But we try to spend several weeks a year around the year. My wife loves it best in the fall and early spring, so we go there a lot, and we go there to hide, and so we don't really mix and mingle a lot. And they have nice bookstores there. But that was sort of the inspiration for the island. The bookstore is patterned after my favorite bookstore in the world, Square Books in Oxford. That was where I had my first book signing for A Time to Kill 31 years ago. And I've hung out there for many, many hours, been there for many book signings, and been there to see other writers come through and sign and read and hang out. And it's just it's a gorgeous bookstore. It's my favorite bookstore in the world. And so I took Square Books basically and planted Square Books on Main Street in the fictional town of Santa Rosa, Florida. And Bay Books is all fictional. And anyway, that was a fun part. The bookstore owner, Bruce Cable, is a kind of a roguish character who loves books and writers, especially young female writers who are on tour and lonely. He likes ladies. He likes long lunches every day with a bottle of wine. He reads all day long at the store, and he has a very busy bookstore. He makes a lot of money off his bookstore, which is all fiction, of course, and he does all this with almost no staff. So you got to love fiction, okay?
Yeah, I know. And he also has a few other things going on the side, which gets into the plot. So that's good. Yeah. I'd always written my other books of nonfiction, and I really enjoyed writing fiction for the first time. To me, writing nonfiction is like riding your horse inside of the corral. You have to stay within the fence of the facts. And then when you write fiction, it's like riding your horse through the gate, and you can go anywhere you want. You can change the timeline. You can change the characters. You can change the plot because you're making it up as you go. And so I loved writing fiction. It was very exciting to me. I don't think I could go back to nonfiction now. But Crawdads is also a murder mystery. Where the Crawdads Sing is a murder mystery, which I had never intended to write in my life. But it's a love story and a murder mystery. But that's sort of on the surface. It has a very deep side to it because I studied wildlife in Africa for 23 years, and one of the things I learned in Africa was how much we can learn about human nature from nature itself. So I wanted to explore that in a novel and to find out ways. There's so many ways that we are like other animals. For example, we have a very strong genetic propensity to live in groups. So Where the Crawdads Sing is a lot about isolation. I lived a lot of my life in isolation, and it's a book about isolation, and so it's very timely for now. But mainly, it's about how to find the strength and the resilience to solve problems on your own when you are isolated. Because even though we belong in a group and we draw from our friends and our family, it is a lot of times we have to solve our problem ourselves. And right now we're in a situation where we have to do that, unfortunately.
Yeah, we really do. You catch yourself, writing is a lonely profession. And I joke and say I've been in isolation for 30 years because, I don't collaborate. I don't work. You can't write with any, you can't write with somebody else in the room. You can't write with a collaborator looking over your shoulder. My wife is the nearest person to me when I write. She's in the different building. She wouldn't dare come in my office when I write, and I don't want anybody there. I write in a small office with no phones, fax, internet, no music. It's very quiet and dark, and that's what I love about it. And I still enjoy going over there at 7:30 every morning and spending a few hours in deep isolation. So that I'm sort of used to this. In a prior career, I was a lawyer, and I was, I always had people around me, other lawyers, secretaries, judges, courtroom juries. It was a kind of a team sport at times, but I've loved being in isolation. To take that even further, now that we can't get out, now that we can't travel, now that we can't do all the things we've normally done, and now that we're worried about where we're going to be a month from now or 6 months from now, you do catch yourself thinking about how can I function, how can I live, how can I solve problems just by myself or with my own little family. And it really is challenging at times, and it's worrisome at times, it's frightening at times to think of where we could be going. But I think it makes you more resilient. You lived a long time by yourself in a cabin in Idaho, didn't you?
I wasn't by myself all the time, no, but I did spend a lot of time alone in Idaho, and I'm the same way. I love being alone. I love having friends. Friends are the most important possession I have. Not that they are a possession, but I I love my family and my friends. But I actually spend a lot of time alone, and I enjoyed that. I love being in the wilderness, true wilderness. And around here, I can get out in the woods a bit, but it's not true wilderness here. But that is how I've spent my life. And I love it and I miss it when I'm not there. And I feel like you can connect more with yourself, and also you can understand your friends when you do interact with wildlife, because that's, as I said before, we are primates, and all primates live in female groups, and groups of girlfriends are very important to people. And of course, the males are important too, but they don't hang out and stay in a large group together very often. And so I just learned a lot about ourselves from being in Africa. And one day I was watching this baboon male strut up and down this riverbank, and he started pumping his chest out and strutting back and forth in front of a group of females. And I thought to myself, yeah, I know that guy. And he's just, I could see us in other animals all the time, with the females playing with their cubs and playing with each other's cubs, and the female groups, and how it's important to realize that within the female group there's as much conflict as there is camaraderie. And you can see that in hyenas, you can see it in a sorority. And so I just really enjoyed putting this into a novel of how much we can see of ourselves from wildlife, and you can learn a lot from.
So will you go back to Idaho? Go back to the remoteness of Idaho, or will you stay in Asheville?
I'm going to stay here. I've gotten a bit old to live out on my own. I'm elderly now, and it was very romantic to be in Idaho. And moose would go through the fence at night, and I'd have to go out and mend the fence when it was 20 below zero and snow everywhere. It was beautiful. It was romantic for a long time. But now that I'm older, the last couple of years, I broke my foot, and I had to shovel snow with a broken foot. And and so it was getting to be pretty tough. So I felt like it was time to move closer to civilization.
Well, why'd you pick Asheville?
Well, I used to come. I grew up in South Georgia. I didn't think I could take the heat of South Georgia these days. But my family used to come up to North Carolina on vacation every year, almost every year. So I know this area. So it was, right. And I have friends here. So it's a beautiful, beautiful place. So I really like it.
Do you hang out at Malaprop's, that great bookstore?
Oh yeah, it's a great bookstore. You know what? Ever since I moved here, I haven't been here long, but ever since I moved here, I've been traveling to promote my book. So and then now as soon as I come back and I finished with my book promotion, the virus is here, so I'm isolating. So I haven't been to the bookstore as much as I like, but it's a great bookstore. Absolutely great.
I want to talk about your book, okay?
Okay.
And the first question is, what took so long to write your novel?
What took so long to write? Well, someone who writes a novel every year. Okay, it took me 10 years to write this novel, but it was not my day job. I was a wildlife scientist, and I was still working as a wildlife scientist when I wrote this book. It'd be like you writing a novel when you were a lawyer, when you were practicing law. I would get up at 4:30 every morning to write on this novel. And then several times, twice, I put it away. Printed it out, put it in a box, and put it on a closet shelf because I just didn't think it was going to go anywhere. And so that's the reason it took so long.
Okay. Next question. How'd you get it published?
Well, I had co-authored with Mark Owens 3 nonfiction books. And so when it took me so long to write my novel, by the time I started looking for agents and publishers, everybody, the editor and agents I'd worked with before had either retired or moved on. So I had to do the cold thing of getting writer's market out off the shelf and sending emails to agents trying to find an agent. And so it was cold. That's a hard business. It's a tough job to try to find. I mean, fortunately, our nonfiction books had been New York Times. First one was a New York Times bestseller, so I could put that in the byline and in the email. That helped. But I found an agent, and then once I found a great agent, Russ Galen in New York, then it took 3 or 4 weeks for me to get an agent, which isn't all that long. And then he had 3 or 4 publishers lined up who were interested in the book in a matter of weeks. So it took a long time, but then once I started the process, it went quite quickly. I was very, very grateful and fortunate in that.
And the book was published when?
August 14th, 2018.
18, right. So it's been out almost 2 years.
Almost 2 years.
Yeah. It's it has really irritated me a few times because I would come out and go number 1, and then you would go down to 3 or 4, and I would watch, and you would slowly come back up and knock me off of number 1 again. Okay. It's amazing what the book has done. It's sold over 2 million copies in hardback, right? It's
almost a 6 million.
6 in hardback.
No. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, that's all formats. Yeah. I don't know how many hard copies. I mean, 2 million maybe. But almost 6 million altogether. Yeah. Well, but John, now, okay. Speaking of number 1, I think you can knock me down now.
I'll knock you off next week, okay? But you'll be back, all right? It's amazing what crawdads. I have a very serious question for you. I grew up eating crawfish in Mississippi. Are crawfish the same as crawdads?
They are. They are exactly the same species. It's just that crawfish are usually larger. Or some people say that the crawdads are larger. You know, it's not a scientific classification, but yes, they're the same species. They're in the same family same order as shrimp and lobsters. They're actually very good to eat, you know, because you've eaten them. I mean, they're very good to eat. But
so crawdads are.
Sorry.
Crawdads are edible.
Oh yes, they're edible. And when I was a young girl growing up in South Georgia, my mother was a real outside girl, and she used to encourage my girlfriends and I to go out as far into the woods as we could go. She probably just wanted us to get out of the house, but she was always encouraging us to go way out. She said she wanted us to experience real nature. And she was the one who said to me, go way out yonder where the crawdads sing. She was just expressing that she wanted me to be way out there. to see a deer with a fawn or whatever. But crawdads don't really sing. You probably know that. I mean, it's just an expression. They
Yeah.
actually don't sing.
But are they around water?
Yes, they're around wet areas,
Okay.
lagoons, and I mean they crawl out on land, but they don't actually live in the water, but very wet, muddy areas.
Right. My favorite cuisine, my favorite food is Cajun and Creole cuisine, and
Ah,
I love all the great crawfish etouffee and all those dishes that there's just dozens of them that come out of South Louisiana, New Orleans. But that's my favorite food to eat. I grew up, with the typical Southern diet, which is not all that great. But I discovered Cajun food when I was a young kid, and just loved Cajun food. There are dozens of crawfish recipes, so I've eaten them by the ton. But we didn't eat crawdads, or didn't when I was growing up.
you
Okay,
probably you probably ate them. They probably threw them in with the crawfish. You didn't know it.
all right. Question for you.
Sorry.
Since I got a question for you. Okay, since it's taken so long to get your first novel, what's going to happen with the second novel?
Well, if I can't take as long again, I'll be dead. But I'm writing my second novel now, and I'm it's but that's the reason I was asking all these questions. It to me, I have the story in my mind, and I've done the outline, but I keep veering away from the outline and getting lost and coming back to it. But it's a similar sort of book of it's going to be another mystery and another love story, but it has a deeper meaning underneath of trying to connect with nature and learning how much we can learn about ourselves from nature. And I believe you have a new one coming out too. You had a book many years ago. I remember A Time to Kill, and now your next book is going to be A Time for Mercy.
Yes.
I can't believe you already have this other one. Have you started it?
Almost finished.
Oh no, that's impossible.
Delia, you got to get with it, okay? You got to get with it. You got to do. Okay, I talked to Stephen King last Thursday night, a live YouTube chat, just the two of us talking books. I know him very well, and we always talk about writing. And he writes a couple of books a year, as I'm doing these days. And we both our goal each day is to write 1,000 words a day.
Oh no!
That
Oh
can be done.
my God!
Practice. You should practice more. Okay. You should practice every day trying to do 1,000 words. And here's another piece. Here's some great advice for you. You didn't ask for it, and I don't normally give advice to writers. Okay, but you're in a unique, remarkable position with this incredible book. If you sold 6 million copies in 2 years, 2 million hardback, which I have done a few times, but many years ago. Now, the numbers aren't there now. All the numbers are fine, but what you've done is remarkable, and it's a publishing phenomenon. And it would be a huge mistake on your part. Are you writing this down?
Okay, I'm writing it down. Okay, huge mistake. Huge mistake. Okay, I got it.
Huge mistake on your part to wait too long before you publish the next book.
You sound like my agent.
Yeah, okay. Well, listen to your. He knows the business. Okay, I listen to my agent. I listen to my publisher. Years ago, I was told by a young executive that if you want to get really big in publishing as a writer, as a popular author, he said something that stuck with me and still sticks with me. He said the big guys come out every year, and I wrote that down 30 years ago, and I've lived by that for 30 years. And so if you look around, if you look at Stephen King, Lee Child, Michael Connelly, the big writers are the ones who come out every year. So that's no more advice. You didn't ask for that, so no more advice.
Okay, but all right, but let's. I have to ask you something about that. Okay, what I do when I write a paragraph, then I go over it. As soon as I write it, I go over it 5 or 6 times and try to improve it. So you must just write it and keep going, and you try to improve it the next.
No. When I finish a sentence, I repeat that out loud 2 or 3 times.
Yeah.
To see how it sounds, because oftentimes what is perfect grammar doesn't sound the way I want it to sound. Okay, and
Right.
also you're using dialect as you use in your book. Nothing wrong with that. So I say each sentence out loud 2 or 3 times. I'm also looking for words to cut.
Yes.
Writers
Yes.
all write too many words because we can, because we have unlimited space, because we have unlimited time, and no one's going to really tell us to cut back. Or we get edited, or people tell us, okay, cut this, cut that. But the truth is, your next book could be 300 pages long or 500 pages long, and nobody's going to really tell you what to do. So we all tend to use too many words. And so I'm always constantly looking for something to cut. And when I finish that day's work, I'm done. I edit as I go. I start the next day early in the morning by rereading what I wrote the day before. And that is a great time to edit. It's also it gets you back into the flow of the story. It takes a few minutes each day to see where you are, and it helps with your pacing and, again, the flow of the story. So that's the way I do it. But I'm always I don't read each paragraph 5 times. Uh, try twice, okay, and keep moving.
Okay. I'll go with twice. Okay. And you do all that and still do 1,000. All right. You've inspired me. I'm going to try to write more words a day. I've always just been fine with going slow. And, the thing about being my age is that I'm not worried about a career of writing. If you wait until you're 70 to write your first novel, then or publish your first novel, then I'm not. I don't have a goal for certain many books for a career. It's fairly relaxing. I'm not. I didn't even want to sign another contract.
Okay.
But
Okay. The great thing about writing is you don't have to retire unless you want to. Nobody can make you retire, and you can do it until you die. And a lot of writers do it until they die and do it well. One of my favorites is John le Carré, the British espionage writer,
all right, yeah.
who is in his late 80s, and he's still writing. Published a month ago. Stephen King is 74. He published last week or 2 weeks ago. He'll publish again this fall. So age is no excuse for you or me or somebody who's 30 years old. Age is never an excuse. Time is never an excuse. I tell writers and aspiring writers and students, nothing is really going to happen with your writing until you're writing at least 1 page a day. You got to write 1 page a day at least, with no excuses.
Well, I do that. I managed to do that.
Okay.
Oh,
Are they flashing something at us?
I don't know. I don't know how to use this thing. I've never done this before.
Well,
I think they'll just shut us up when the time comes.
I think we're okay. They'll pull the plug when the time comes.
Okay. Yeah, they'll turn it. Okay. Well, thank you for that advice. I appreciate that.
You don't need advice. You're doing quite well without me.
Well, the most important thing is I really enjoy it. I love writing. It's my favorite thing to do. So I'm having fun with it. And it's hard and frustrating sometimes. But you must enjoy the process too. We're lucky to be doing something we really love.
I wrote 1,000 words this morning, and I started at about 7:30. Beautiful spring morning, as I always do. Same place, same spot, same time. And I'm really into the story now because I'm on the downhill slide, but it's still very enjoyable. I enjoy coming up with these plots, a murder mystery like Camino Winds, a criminal trial like A Time for Mercy in a small town. As long as the words and ideas are coming as freely as they are now, I'll keep writing. I never.
Yeah. You obviously don't have a problem with that. You don't have a problem with any of this, and you've had an outstanding career. You are an American icon, and it's been great fun and honor to have this discussion.
Listen, they're telling us to get off. The pleasure's been mine. I'll meet you in Asheville at Malaprop's bookstore. Okay.
Okay, you promise?
Yeah. Take care. Keep writing.
You too. Okay, 1,000 words a day. Bye.
1,000 words a day.
Bye.
Bye-bye.